I put in work with all my might. I know that he got me not by sight. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt like vanish, I slide outlandish, V12 now bite. Now by chance, don't dab me, you're not my man. Don't at me, you're not my man. Mama said don't buy it if you cannot buy it twice. I cop by the tools and I don't pump fake with the price. Always on the grind, I put in work with all my might. I know that he got me not by sight. Yeah, 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 yeah. I skirt like vanish, I slide outlandish, V12
How you all doing? It's Wednesday. Val doesn't come on a Wednesday. Why are you on a Wednesday, Val? Well, listen. Positive affirmations to you all. We're coming out of lockdown. And time for us to start getting some real music out there. Because what we've been doing, there have been so many wonderful MCs, DJs, producers, you name it. They have all been trying to entertain the masses. Doesn't matter what quality of music it has been. It could have been soul, pop, reggae, drum and bass, breakbeat, you name it. Everyone's been out there trying to entertain you to keep our mental health absolutely going. And not only that, get us off the sofa, introduce us to new music. And it has introduced us to new people you probably wouldn't have heard of. Now, the guy, I call him the Ledg. For me, he's a Ledg for me. He has been breaking barriers. He's been breaking down barriers. He's been introducing. He has been entertaining on BBC One Extra, on Kiss Fresh, on PYRO. He has, he's underground, he's overground. He's been bringing the urban taste of music for a long while. Now, some of you, okay, not everyone's in the music industry. And as you know, on Standing in My Truth, anything goes on Standing in My Truth. As I don't suit any genre. There's no genre for me. For me, it's everything. So just like my music, you can't pigeonhole me. And like myself, I've decided to bring all tastes. So we've had from pop, we've had indie, we've had all sorts of artists. But today, Standing in My Truth, I have, to me, as I said, the legendary J Fresh, producer, DJ, presenter, and he's in the house ready to join us today. So without further ado, I'm going to start right from the beginning, who he is. For all those who don't know him, and get this annoying bit of hair out my face, I'm going to bring on J Fresh into the house. Yeah. Where is I? Let me get you in. Yeah!
Yes, we're here. How you to be here on a Wednesday, as I've just heard, is a very rare thing. So it's great to be here, Val. How are you doing?
All right, Jay, I'm not too bad at all. And I'm telling you, I don't do a Wednesday show.
I know, right? It's an honour. It's a blessing.
Right. I mean, normally I don't care about who's competing with who, but I do care about my friends if they're doing stuff as well. And so I made sure it was 8 o'clock because I know that I have a good friend of mine who has a talk show and he's really popular. I mean, really, really popular. He just wipes everything off the circuit. And he does from like 6 till 8. And I thought, I can't go against him. So I made sure the show today was at 8 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? Out of due respect,
Of course, I hear that.
So I never touch a Wednesday. So when you said, oh my God, Thursdays might be difficult and a Friday, I thought, I'm getting you. I don't care. Schedule's changing. So yeah. How are you doing first and foremost? How has lockdown been treating you?
Yeah, I guess it's a question we find ourselves asking each other quite a lot, don't we, over the last few months? But in general, yeah, positive. light at the end of the tunnel for a lot of us. And you know, I've just been still doing what I do within music and making tracks and kind of working out the next step. And now that, you know, venues are, fingers crossed, opening and things like that are happening again, we can kind of start to get to kind of some kind of normality. But away from that, I've been trying to do the exercise during lockdown, which is hard.
Don't even look. Don't.
It's hard. So what I found myself out, I found myself running a lot, going for runs during the week as often as I can. Now I do not enjoy running. I find it very boring, but I just, you know, I airplane my phone. I just put some music on and I literally just run out the door. And then I have an app telling me when I've run 5Ks and then I walk home. So that's kind of really helped center me as well.
I'd pass out. I mean, wow. I can walk 5K, but running 5K,
but I have possibly, but I haven't told you how long it took. It could have taken me 8 hours. So do you know what I mean? My running could be your walking. You never know.
That's hilarious. I love that. I love that. But you know, I was so grateful because I think the gods were definitely on my side when, because I'm sure you had no idea that in lockdown I decided to do a podcast show. Now, I've caught a few of yours on Mixcloud, and I've been inspired by so many various different other people who have used their ingenuity and their creativity to open podcasts for whatever the subjects that they choose to do.
Yeah.
And being a musician myself, I didn't really want to go down the musician route, but somehow I kept veering back to it. So my question, I'm going to go right from the get-go. Everyone knows you as J Fresh. Now, would you like to say to them, what is your real name? Now, remember, this show is about standing in my truth, all about you. That's what this is all about. And I'm not going to tell him I'm going to ask him that, but if you want to divulge it, everyone knows you as J Fresh. But let's. I always say to one, let's humanize you. Who are you?
Okay, I'll give you
about you.
I'll give you the Christian name. The Christian name is John. There you go.
I like that. We'll stick with that. We'll stick with that.
You totally put me on the spot. I was not expecting government name, you know, bank details, what's your permanent address. Wow. But yeah, John. So kind of quite easy to see where Jay came from. When I was very, very young, I used to play football and I played in a team that happened to have a lot of Johns and Jameses and Jasons and Joe and all this stuff. So Jay kind of became the little nickname and kind of was always there. But
that's the moniker for you.
Yeah, nothing very exciting, I'm afraid.
Do you know what? I was going to try and hazard a guess, and I'm not going to be funny. I do know it. It's just that, you know, I would be a bad researcher if I didn't do my homework. So if you had said Jack, I'd have gone, what? And I said, oh, please.
Most people, if they hazard a guess, they think James.
Really?
So it's close. It's close.
It's close enough. I'm sure I'm not going to out your government name. But let's go right back to the beginning. Where were you actually from?
Man.
What area? Come on.
The reason is that is not a straightforward question to answer. Because I've kind of lived in different pockets of the UK.
We'll start from the young age then.
Most of my life. So in Hampshire, like North Hampshire, Farnborough, Aldershot, that kind of way. I spent some time in Bournemouth. I went to university there. I spent quite a lot of time after university living there. It's a lovely part of the world. And it's kind of where I really kind of kicked on from as a DJ, just kind of playing some songs at some college or uni parties into actually kind of it becoming a career and stuff like that.
We'll come back to that. Yeah.
And also I've lived in kind of northwest London. I've lived in South London. I have family kind of abroad and also in parts of London and in parts of Hampshire. So I guess where I'm from is kind of the south coast, kind of into kind of South London, if that makes sense, that kind of area. But a lot of people do think that I am like from Bournemouth, like was born there, have lived my life there, all my roots are there. But that's not the case. So it's a question I haven't been asked the question for a while. But when people do, they say like, "Where are you from?" It's always a difficult one because I don't really feel like I'm particularly from one area and say,
yes,
yeah, I was born there or I spent my life there, but to me that's home. I've never really had that. But yeah, that's where it is. A muddled answer is what you got right there.
And I like that because it still gives me a bit of intrigue, which I'm still going to dig in, find a little bit inside of those little intrigue. So within those little pockets, because you mentioned Bournemouth University, so you know, if we didn't know any better, and for those who are just skimming you on the surface, yes, they're right. They would have thought that you came from Bournemouth because you spurred literally DJing from Bournemouth. So you went to Bournemouth University.
Yeah.
Now, when did your love of music? Now, let's take away being a DJ. What was the sort of music that you grew up on? What was what on those? You know, for me, it's like the Blue Spot Gram of my dad. But for you, what was it that was in your house playing? What sort of music?
This is again another answer you're not expecting. My family, my household never played music. Like there was never a radio on. It was, I guess, what you'd call quite a quiet household. I've got a number of siblings, so we probably made enough noise for everybody. But there was no, oh well, my mum always listened to that when she was cooking, or you know, my dad and uncles had those records. All I can remember is there was a green cassette tape, which to anyone under a certain age will think I'm speaking another language. It was a green cassette tape of Elton John that I remember was like the only cassette tape we had. I had. It used to be my dad's, but I guess my earlier kind of actual memories is oh god, I remember buying like a reggae compilation called Ragga Heat Reggae Beat, which I think came out in like 1994. That was the first thing I bought, that type of music. And then from there, I guess there was just a mixture. Like you'd go to school and people in the playground would be listening to jungle or happy hardcore, or then that was at a point where the Ministry of Sound nightclub was kind of really started dropping compilations called The Annual. So there's that side of music. And then there was my first kind of exposure to those very early days of UK garage, and that crossover with kind of house and garage as well. So
what was the thing that bit you and said, damn, I'm collecting all these mixtapes and I'm listening to this and I'm listening to that. But then you must have had a fusion somewhere you'd have said, damn, this is what I want to do, this is what I want to make, or this is what I want to produce, or this is what I want to play. How did that start?
That was UK garage. When I was kind of college years is when UK garage was kind of, I guess, really forming. Records like, you know, Tina Moore, Dem 2, New Horizons, a very early record by MCB Live and Valerie M called 1159. Yes.
Really?
1159 Armageddon.
Oh my God, 1159.
I've still got that on vinyl somewhere. I love that record.
Way.
And you know what?
Yeah.
I took a clip of that probably about a year ago and put it on Insta stories or something. And I tagged B Live. And I think he was like, oh my God, this is the first vocal track he recorded. So I want to turn it around to you. No, you two on that track. How did that happen? I'm intrigued.
That is so not fair.
Come on, tell me. I need to know.
You're the interviewer that needs to be interviewed today. That is so not. Oh wow! And I'm only going to allow you one.
Okay, that's it.
So I worked with DJ. There was Lee Spiker and DJ Texter, and I must have been doing tingles at the Opera House, and I've always seen B Live, you know, and these guys hanging around. And then one day I got this phone call from a mutual friend and said, do you know B Live? And I said, no. Do you know Text? I went, not really. He said, I know them and they've been saying they want to meet you. And I was like, okay. No clue who they were. None. But I went down to Johnny, call him Johnny Rockstar, and I went down to Johnny's studio just behind the Opera House, and in comes B Love. And he wasn't as tattooed up as he is today, but he is so enigmatic. He was just so cool. And I didn't have a clue what we were going to do. We just thought I was going to meet each other. And right there and then they put this track on, and he said, I've got this thing, it's coming up to New Year's Eve, and what do you think we should call it? And I said, okay, you rap, I sing. and he just went off. And that's how the track sort of came about. And it literally was like a couple of takes and the song was done.
Sick.
That was it. And we never got to, we performed it a few times, but we never got to do anything else after that, because by then I joined the clique. And the rest was history. Yeah. Not fair. Hold on a minute. I'm interviewing you.
I know, but as you know, like interviewers, even when they're interviewees, there's that kind of like, well, if I'm talking to you, I'm still going to ask you that question. So I was like,
yeah, I've done that. I must admit.
I was like, I'm saving that one. So,
well, I'm going to spin it back to you. So you had tracks like 11:59.
Yeah.
But those were only tracks that you were listening to. And so when you pick up the decks, was it the decks you picked up first, or you just, how did that come about as well? So
yeah, no, good question. Well, at the time I was going to kind of clubs and events. Obviously, garage was blowing up, so La Cosa Nostra, Garage Nation, all these people. Was it Flavor TV? I can't remember. They were like touring all over. So at that point, I was in. Living in kind of Hampshire, Southampton way, and these big brands were coming to all the big venues and doing things. So I'd go to those events. Obviously, I wasn't 18, but I'd go to them. To the younger people watching today, like pre-Spotify and social media, the only way you could hear music, if you weren't at events, was through recordings of the DJs and MCs and singers performing. So tape packs was like a big part, and someone at school would have a tape and you'd share it, and so. That was my early kind of exposure to it. And then I was at college and I bought a set of decks. And, by then garage was everywhere. Record shops were in every high street. And, was it Double G, Get Loose and Miss Dynamite, Boo and...
so did you play vinyl first?
Yeah, 100%. It was vinyl because I was all these records... I had tapes and I could hear people like Heartless Crew and I was like, wow, that just sounds, or Mike Ruffco, I was like, that just sounds amazing, like DJing. And then you'd buy a track on a CD single and you're playing it and then you're like, oh, let me get my sister's CD player and try and play another tune and mix them. But obviously you can't change the speed. Yeah. So then I obviously certain songs only came out on vinyl. So you bought them, you're like, well, I have to have a turntable to listen to the track. So I bought some rubbish decks when I was at college and I had like maybe 10 records and my friend was around one weekend and he was just sat there chilling and I was attempting to mix these records and obviously it would have been absolutely horrendous for him because it was just a mess.
Was it clanging?
Oh, it was all over the place. And I remember to this day because sadly he passed away like 15 odd years ago, but I remember to this day, he was just sat there quietly in the lounge when I was set up the decks and playing, and all the mixes were awful. And then there was one mix that just went perfectly and it sounded sick. And he just looked up and just looked at me saying, oh my God, that actually didn't sound horrendous.
Yeah.
But I'll always remember that kind of about him. But yeah, that was kind of not being old enough to go to raves and tape packs and garage kind of blowing up and big brands on tour. And then picking up decks and records being available in shops. Artful Dodger, obviously, were right up there with Craig David from Southampton. So there was a big local buzz as well. So lots of kind of factors. But if I had to pinpoint a genre, it was that's
what started you off
era of UK garage. Yeah, amazing. Loved it to the bone.
So you've got into the UK garage and you've got your first decks and now you're practicing. Do you remember who gave you your first chance to play at a gig?
Yes, I do remember.
Go on, tell me who.
And
how did that go? And likewise, how did that come about?
I went to uni and everyone at uni, you meet people in halls, they put on parties, this, that, the other. My neighbours put on an event at a very small nightclub in Bournemouth and it was my very first gig and they paid me, which is amazing now. So I got paid for my very first gig and I had some awful old kind of belt drive decks at home and I got to the club and they had like Technics that I'd never used before and like there was a monitor speaker and I'm like, oh, why do you need that? So yeah, I was just awful and I had no idea about programming the set. I just played all the garage I wanted to hear, even though like it was 10:05 and no one was in the club and I'm playing like mad instrumentals or whatever. But I came away with it going, that was so hard. You know, it really knocks your confidence. But a friend of mine was like, who was a DJ a bit, was originally from like Bromley. He was like, that was your very first time on Technics, your very first time in a club. Like, you actually did really well. And that kind of kept me going. But
that made you more confident, didn't it?
Yeah, but I think every DJ, you know, if they're being brutally honest, especially kind of from the vinyl days, how was your first DJ set? Well, you would have been rubbish. Come on. You would have been rubbish because you've been a kid, you've never DJ'd in front of people, you've never played on a sound system. Like, you don't know, but it's all part of growth. Do you know what I mean? You have to go through that.
Would you say, because I'm going to, you know, I don't want to miss out asking you this question. Would you say, even if it was vinyl or it was CDJs, do you think that encouragement that this guy says for you being your first time and you knew it was difficult, do you think is what made you carry on? Or if you hadn't been given that incentive, would you be despondent and not tried it again?
Very good question. Now with the power of hindsight, I can look back and say that might have just been a throwaway comment from a mate who'd had a few drinks that night, but it meant a lot because, especially when I was younger, I was someone who wasn't the most confident and would always overanalyze and overthink things. So just that kind of like crumb of encouragement kind of thing, you know, and you learn from it. I don't know if I'd have given up. I don't think that would have happened, but it definitely made me think, do you know what? Like, don't be too hard on yourself. Like, everyone has to start somewhere. And now looking back on it, I could say I was that age. Like I said, I'd never played in front of anyone, not even like a house party, you know, got paid. That would have been unheard of, really.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So all in all, like, yeah. But you're right. That was the fact that I brought it up to you now in this conversation a number of years later, obviously.
Oh no. Right. I could see that his internet was fluctuating. Oh, here he is. There we go. See? There you are. He's still here with us.
Oh, yeah. I'm not going anywhere. Don't worry.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got you. Can you hear me? So I can see you a little bit frozen at my end. So I'm just going to do this. Okay. Okay. So you're still showing up frozen on my screen. That's naughty. So give me a 1 2 1 2. Let me hear you.
1 2 1 2. I can still hear you and see you fine.
Great. That's fine. Okay. Yep, that's good. I can see you. Right. So you were saying in hindsight, you know, him telling you that was really good encouragement. So you've played your first gig, you're into your house and garage. But the thing is, you migrated away from that. In the garage scene, before you migrated, what would you say was the biggest place that, you know, the club that accolade of DJing amongst, you know, the top DJs in that day? Which was like the best clubs, would you say?
What is in that I played at, or that I kind of went to?
In the garage scene, especially.
Sorry, that I DJ'd at myself, or that I kind of went to. Yes. Oh, right. Okay. Sorry. Yes. I mean, I think the Dream Team was still on Radio 1 at this point with their breakfast show on a Sunday. Yeah. So they came to Bournemouth and did a massive event there, and I played a little bit before and a little bit after them. So there was that. That was a venue called the Fire Station, which is still open, which is still there in Bournemouth. Yeah, it's like a live music place.
Well, there. Yeah.
There was a venue called the Opera House that is now an O2 Academy. I think I played there, and I think Artful Dodger were there. Maybe Luck and Neat. In terms of, because obviously garage is such like a muddled term in terms of genre and how, you know, I was really, really liking the darker stuff that then transformed into grime. So I probably came to garage like a little bit later, and because of my age and stuff as well. So it would have only been areas in Bournemouth where I was living. But at that time, you know, like I said, Dream Team were on Radio 1 and, you know, doing mad things. So just to kind of be on the bill with these people and kind of warm up before them or take over after them was like mad. But what's really mad is that like over, I guess, all of my career as DJing, I've probably played with EZ about 10 times, which,
Oh, really?
yeah, which considering he went off and did his thing and has obviously like always been an incredible guy doing the maddest things ever. It's just a funny quirk of coincidence that back then I probably played alongside him 4 or 5 times and then like nothing for 10 years. And then around about 2011, I think I ended up playing 3 or 4 gigs. We were booked on the same bill. And then obviously since then, he's obviously gone on to like a whole new level of what he's doing. But that was always a funny one. So I did loads of on the same bill as EZ, even back then. But for example, none with Pay As You Go. And I think only 1 with Heartless Crew.
That's
so
crazy,
it's just the way it kind of went. And they were everywhere. It's just the way it kind of panned out. But that's just life. It's funny like that.
Because they kind of had, I would think, it's like the So Solids and the Heartless Crew and the Pay As You Go. Is that, for me, they sounded like a consortium. So it's like they had the MC, the DJ, they had the artist. It was like a full package. And so they could just go and have a show.
Yeah.
That was it. It wasn't like, oh, you're going to have J Fresh, and with J Fresh, you're going to have So Solid. It was no, they came with a full package. So I can see how that was quite, where it was, you don't get to be on the same billing as them, but then be with EZ, because EZ, you're both in the same frame where you are the act, you are the DJ. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. Yeah, and EZ would always, he did a couple of them, but he was always just doing 1 hour sets, literally just 1 hour sets. And like, obviously other people were like going for longer, and Heartless always did overtime if they were like enjoying the gig. So, but
let's come back to you. Let's come back to you. You went down into grime, and I'm going to ask this question, even though you've, someone said, there was a quote, and this was ages ago. So when I first recognized there was J Fresh around, you had the Tim Westwoods. Now, I don't know if anyone has ever put you in that category. It's like, you're the Tim Westwood of grime, or I'm being serious. I'm going to ask it because for me, I thought, don't be stupid. But then when I look back on it, I kept thinking, well, maybe I can see where they've got that from, because you've got Tim Westwood in a hip hop world, where people like to use color and think that because you're that color, you're only supposed to play that music. I think it's totally ridiculous. Music is music. But there was a suggestion like, oh, J Fresh, and he's into, the grime and the drill, and you've got this, to me, you've got that the drum and bass as well. You've got the bass line, and you know how to kick that bass line, which is what I love about you, I swear. So yeah, there was this analogy, it's like, oh, he's the Tim Westwood, and I thought, don't use that term. But has anyone ever said that to you?
No, I've never had that, actually. No one's actually said that about grime. I mean, I can understand why in the past maybe people have said that as like maybe a jokey thing or like a lazy comparison, or whatever. But
comparison.
I mean, if we think about how much Westwood like broke electro before it became hip hop, I mean, this is way before my time, but you do your research, and then like early hip hop shows of Run DMC, and like he booked Biggie and Puffy, and I think 1995 somewhere in London and whatever. But he's always, in those times, he always kind of rode for and pushed that music so much. Then,
but
even if
he said for you, so let's forget Tim Westwood. And I like the lazy comparison. I love that. See, I'm throwing questions at you. You probably didn't.
No, go for it. But I think,
you know what I mean?
But people have always. Sorry to go back quickly, but people, I guess, have always kind of, not everybody, but some people, if you're not from that particular area, or you are slightly different from the way other people are, or whatever, sometimes that people see that as like a little barrier or whatever. But in terms of where I'm at in the music that I kind of play and support, if an artist has had like 2 streams or has 2 followers, but they send me a song that I think is really good, like I'm going to play it. And for example, with the radio shows that I do now, I play music from from the genres that I do, but people from all over this country and people from abroad all the time. Brazil, Germany.
I'm going to ask you about them.
Yeah. So to me, it's kind of, if people want to say, oh, well, you're a bit like this or you're a bit that, or, you know, you don't quite look the way we expected, which comes up a lot sometimes when I do things like this. They go, oh, you look different to what we thought. But I mean, like, whatever, that's kind of neither here nor there for me. It's like we're here, and like yourself, people who have done the research and done the stuff can kind of see the credentials. So it's like, I don't really mind, and you can't really please everybody. So like, there's people who love what you do, and there's people who hate what you do. There's people who think you are great, and people who don't like you. Like, I'm okay with that. I'm very comfortable with people not liking me or what I do. Like, it doesn't bother me. I'm good.
I love it. I love that you're on today because you're so open and says it as it is. I love it. All right. So forget that Tim Westwood. And this is and I like the fact that you said it was a lazy comparison. Now, here you are. You are now coming to the pinnacle. You're DJing, but then how did you get found to get it? Did PYRO come first, BBC One Extra, or Kiss?
Well, if we go all the way back from the start,
Let's go to the start.
When I was living in North London, I was doing pirate radio on Freeze FM in Northwest London for a couple of years. And then back in Bournemouth, obviously there were no pirate radios. Pirate radio was kind of tailing off. There was a local FM commercial radio station that had some mad license. So they had specialist shows. So I approached them and they took me on to do a weekly show. And after a few years, I became head of specialist in that station. And then
was that on Freeze FM?
I did Freeze before, and then the station in Bournemouth was called Fire FM.
Okay, okay, yeah.
And then around that time, I was always like doing loads in the clubs. And then I did a gig with Charlie Sloth, and
good old Charlie.
He asked me to come and do regular mixes on his drive time show on One Extra. So I was doing mixes for him every month, and then also popping up on like Nick Bright's show, and then bits on Kiss Fresh, and then I really pushed forward in terms of making the music. I don't know, some of this we'll probably cover later.
Don't give away too much.
And then with that kind of then got my music played on those stations and doing like guest sets and takeovers and back-to-backs with Target, and was on Spyro's show. And it's kind of just went from there. And then PYRO kind of said, oh, look, we really like what you do. We play your music. Would you like to do a show? And I said, it sounds great. You know, I live in London now. You know, I just need complete creative control over the music that I play and the guests that I invite on. I need to have that. And they said, yeah, of course. Which is really important to me. And
that
then
was PYRO, yes? That was PYRO Radio.
That's PYRO Radio, yeah. So I do that every other week. I control the musical output, and I invite all the guests on that I want to have on and share the music that I'm passionate about. And then the kind of guest mixes, like I was on Reese Parkinson's Drive Time show yesterday, I was on Road Kid show last week, just doing guest mixes. It just kind of all goes hand in hand. If you DJ, but you make music that the stations are playing, you know, when you're interviewing people, and then some of the people you interview, you then make tunes with that videos then end up on GRM or
because this is where I'm going to chuck some videos in. So when did you start producing? Because I know that for me, doing my homework, you are still DJing, and then you had the love of of producing. And what made you then transition? Because that's a lot to take on, because lots of DJs can't produce. And they try to produce, and it's really hard. So you had to choose a genre, and you did.
Yeah. I mean, even before, I was always like making little edits of tunes. God, what was that program called? Wavelab or something? Some really old editing software. My memory is awful. So always making little loops and edits of tunes and stuff without even realizing what you were doing. And then I've always been a DJ or like a broadcaster who also produces, as opposed to I'm a producer. That's how I see it.
Right.
But then it just was natural because you'd make edits of tunes, or you'd make little kind of re-edits of old songs that are like almost like a dub for you to DJ. And at that time, it just kind of seemed, you know, I was meeting a lot of artists, even more artists, I should say, through radio and everything and interviews. It just kind of made sense to actually kind of start putting tracks together and actually releasing them. And then, you know, I've kind of released tracks that are kind of hip hop. I've released tracks that are a bit garagey, and I've released tracks that are just grime. So, you know, there's a lot of influences that I like, but for me, all the tracks I've released have always had like an MC on.
Okay.
You know, they've always had like someone either rapping or MCing, spitting bars or whatever, because...
Okay. Well, hang tight, because this is one that I liked. Now, this is going back, I think this is 2017 or 2018, but this is one that I really like, because I've got a few, but I'm going to play this one first. So here we go.
Dj Fresh.
Yeah. Don't know the settings. Shout out all my brothers. London, Southampton, my gang. Fam, you was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. You was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. You was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. You was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. You was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. You was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. You was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. You was the man, how things change. Vision on set, everything changed. One of the hardest man can tell. I'm not a reload MC, I show. Lockdown flows and they don't get bell. Outpace niggas like Gareth Bell. When you see me, you know I got the dank. Man ain't masking a potent smell. Man try send for the vision fell. Man try send for the vision and realise my man better stay in check. Don't wanna tell my man his...
I'm not going to play too much of it because I don't own the copyrights. And the next thing you know, that they want to come and cut me off on YouTube. But that is Blay. How did that link up with you and Blay come about?
Do you know what? I'm gassed that you played that tune, because I feel there's a really nice story behind it. So
I love his the lyrical content.
Oh, he's cold.
All of it.
He's cold. Blay is cold.
Yo.
Have to shout out Blay because he's cold.
Big up Blay, mate. I'm telling ya.
It's cold. So the story behind that one, sorry, can you still hear me okay?
Oh, I can hear perfectly.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So the story behind that one is I booked B Live to do a set with me in Bournemouth in 2011-ish.
Oh, wow.
And he brought Blay with him, that's the first time I met Blay.
Right.
And then I was DJing in some clubs in Portsmouth, and Blay popped in once or twice. So, you know, he was kind of around for a little bit. And then Blay was in Southampton for a bit when I was in Southampton for a bit. And yeah, like I just reached out to him and said, look, we've got this track, I think you'd sound really, really good on it. So we kind of got together, and he was sick. He just turned up and he did his verse. I don't think it was one take, but like he delivered all the parts really well, and then was like, yeah, let me just do that bit again. And it was like so quick. He was so good. And then like we shot the video because we were both around.
I love the interaction. I like the ghost movement. Like he was there and then it's ghosted out. And then it's like, I was like, yes.
That's sick. And I have to that reminds me, I have to shout out Daz, the director, who did that video and has done a lot of stuff for me since then. A lot of music videos we've worked together. And he does a lot for a lot of different people out there. He's a very like hardworking and like visionary guy.
Yes, I think I'm about to find Daz.
Yes, find Daz, the director, on Instagram. There's the plug.
Yeah, I'm going to look up Daz, you know. So that was one. So you hooked up with Blay, and so you're getting all your tunes played on as well. So, you know, onto BBC and obviously Target and probably Charlie Sloth, etc. But when you did your first tune, your first own production, now quote me if I'm wrong, was it Fruit Salad? Was your first single?
I think, I can't think. I think there's a couple of little tracks I just kind of put out randomly that were probably just instrumentals or refixes or whatever. Yeah. But
Because my history tells me it was Pineapple, it was like a little EP.
Yeah, you're right.
Was on that.
There was a couple of
your launch with Neon. You know, that we had a neon launch. I've got pictures of them here. I don't know if you can see.
Oh yeah.
You've had various single launches.
Yeah. So it probably, in answer to your question, I think I'd done 1 or 2 EPs, including that Blade track you just played. And then it was like, oh, let's kind of put it together as an album, which was Fruit Salad that you mentioned. And then, it just seemed the right thing to do. And that was a learning curve for me. And I was always reaching out to people and working with artists and trying to connect with them. And, you know, then I did like a little tour in some clubs around the country, kind of off the back of that / promoting that. So that was always, like I said, that was really enjoyable. And like, I learned a lot from the process, because as much as you think you like know everything, there's always more to learn.
Absolutely.
You know, and one of the main things that came out of that, for me as well, is also like managing expectations and kind of, for want of a better word, managing people as well, because you are dealing, when you are working with artists, you may not really know each other too well, but you're trying to work together. Everyone has different ways of working, different ways of communicating to try and get like the best end result. So yeah, it was fun, definitely.
Well, I mean, I've got like 3 or 4 other videos, which I'm going to chuck in very shortly. So when you go, you know, as you just said, working with various different people, when you create your beats, do you actually have that vision of whoever it is that you have in mind, or you've just created it and says that this is it? Because like for me, when I get someone will send me a track, sometimes they already have a story and in their head. And so they'll say, you know, they've already named the track, that this is called, you know, confidential, for whatever it is. And so that would be sent to me and goes, yeah, I've just done this tune. It's called Summertime and it's called Credential. And I'm like, okay, now I've got that in my head. Or do you just write the track and just say, this is a beat that I've got, and this is how I was feeling it. And then you put it onto, you go to the person who you want to work on it. How do you work?
I tend to, in most cases, have an idea of working with somebody and then kind of tailoring something that I think they would sound really good on, and I would like to hear if they sounded good on. That's just me. I've never really, when people are like, yo, like send me a beat or whatever, or like, yo, send me your tunes, I'm kind of always a bit reticent to go, well, like here's 5 tracks or here's 10 tracks or whatever. But again, different artists work in different ways. You know, if like some global superstar was like, yo, send us a couple of tracks, then like obviously like we probably would. You know, but in general, in terms of tracks that I'm kind of leading or kind of leading the collab side of things, I'll always kind of come with something that I think they would sound good on, because what's the point of that's just me, but like, why would I just kind of give anyone any old thing? Because if I'm not really feeling it, or it's just not quite right for them, then like they're not going to feel it. And even if they do, is it really going to sound that good?
Sound right, exactly. Which is, here's a collaboration that, again, I've got, these are the ones I chose. Here's one that I chose as well.
DJ Fresh.
Look, could have been a knife, could have been a gun, my fate could have been violent. I grew up in the slum, could have been police chasing me on the run, or all this weed smoke intoxicating my lungs. I'm 35 now, I didn't die young, guessing abortion wasn't an option for my mom, so I made it out the womb. Grandma's prayers protect me once they take me out this room. The world labeled me a goon, so I'm already a target. Moses in a basket, I ain't trying to die early, looking handsome in a casket. To all my teenagers, get your teenage up. Don't wanna see them RIPs and them screen saves.
Don't want YouTube to shut me down, but too young to die.
Oh man,
them beats. Listen, I know Swiss is internet. I love Swiss, but
Swiss.
your beats, Jay.
Swiss.
Hey.
He's a legend, man.
I want to wanted to get up and start skanking. Hey, I was
There was quite a cool story behind that because I spent quite a few years DJing for various kind of people within So Solid crew. Big up Mac. So yeah, like Swiss. When did I do that gig? I think I did a gig selecting for them.
Yeah.
And Swiss was Swiss was emceeing that night. And I remember just after, I can't remember, we were having a drink and we'd connected a few times, and he said, "Oh, that was the first time I'd emceed in a club," which I still don't believe him. Like, he was super cold. And then, yeah, it was in that moment when I was doing the second album, and then I'd always rated him so highly. Initially, I heard him like as a DJ from way, way, way back, and then obviously records like Cry and everything. And he was just that guy. Yeah. And I was like, do you know what? If I would love to hear him on something, for example, like we just heard. And I was like, if I get that to him, I feel like he'll go for it because it's something he can tell a story on. And then he came studio, and obviously I was just gassed. He's a really cool guy anyway, but you know, I was gassed anyway for like the music that he's made and like how highly I rate him as a musician. And then with that kind of track and that message, we had to do the video. And then Daz again shot the video, and I think he's done a really good job with the video. So we went, where did we go? Did we go to Battersea? I can't remember. But we shot that, and it was obviously a track with like a meaning and like a real message there. And there were young adults around who got involved and kind of we connected with since then. So yeah, like just to do a project with him was like,
that was wicked.
A real honor for me because he was just like, yeah, I can't speak highly enough about that guy. I think he's great.
Well, here's another one that I want to get your take on. This is another one that I truly like. Let's see if it will come up. Play.
DJ Fresh.
And this one's another banger. Yeah. Yeah.
Fresh.
That's my.
Preds, what we telling them, man?
That's my gang.
Of course.
You can take me out in the streets, but you can't take the streets out of me. Nah. Can't leave out the family. Anywhere I go, I bring my team. We only fear God, we don't fear no man. That's my bros, them, that's my gang. We only fear God, we don't fear no man. That's my bros, them, that's my gang.
Let me tell you about the bros, them. You don't know them, but just know that if they ain't with me at the front, then they got my back. Even got the arms if it comes to that, but nah, we ain't into that. Too busy trying to live life and make them stack.
Jay, you know what I like about your songs? The people
Go
that
for
you
it.
choose. So the people that you choose has a message.
Mm-hmm.
And the beats sits so well underneath. It's not a copycat beat. The beat, everything just ties in so well that when the message is said, for me, I'm a lyricist, so I'm always going to want to hear what that person is saying. But everything that I've played, there's a conscious lyrics behind it. There's a street lyric behind it. There's a heart lyric behind it. There's a story to be told. And that's what I love. And, you know, for me, you could have 10,000 listeners or whatever the case may be. But production-wise, you know, UK production-wise, you're tough, brother.
Thanks a lot, man. No, it means a lot. And hearing you say that as well, like with that record there, for example, Preds, I'd worked with him on a track previously for the previous album, and I found Preds on Instagram. We'd never connected in any way. I found him on Instagram, and there was a clip of something, and I was like, just followed him and introduced myself, and we worked on something. And then with, of course, it was a mutual friend, Ralph, who'd put us in contact, and he is, he's a versatile rapper, but he's known from a lot of people from like his kind of conscious rap side of things. So, you know, it kind of made sense to do that. And that particular track, like we probably made like at least a good 6+ months before it came out. Like we were sitting it for quite a while,
Right.
sorting things out. So, you know, that sonically, like that track compared to the first one you played with Blaze, obviously like really quite different. But like that one for me was like as far as I would kind of go sonically.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, of course, like is sick. Like his rapping on it is sick, and Preds is amazing anyway. But for me, like that was really good, and that tune got loads of traction for us, like loads of support, which was like amazing to see.
Yeah.
But for me, moving forward, I then kind of was like, that was great, and that worked really well. But now I'm kind of coming back this way now because you know. But since then, like of course, has done a number of tunes himself, which have been really good. Preds had that kind of viral record, Naughty Naughty, that would have been even more viral if it wasn't for lockdown, and he could have done shows. And seeing both of them win on their own journeys is great to see, because that's what you want. All the people we've seen in these videos are people that I'm a fan of musically first and foremost. So to work with them is an amazing moment. And then, you know, we may work in the future on some stuff. They're also doing their thing, I'm doing my thing, and it's great to see people kind of go out there and achieve and win. Yeah, 100%.
Collaboration, and it opens the doors for everything. So I'm going to come away from the bit of the producing, because I'll come back to that, because there's another album that you've done with Joey, but I'll come back to that, the Gemini Joey versus Dj Fresh, and I'm just going to utter it so you've got that in the back of your head when I come back to it. You've gone into radio, you've collaborated, your music is out there, you've stepped up. You're in PYRO. When did the BBC come in? When the Kiss? Because I'm going to show a few little slides here, and let's go with it. The first, so there's PYRO. Now, with PYRO, is that where you started the presenting from on PYRO?
No, presenting wise, I was on Freeze FM.
When I say presenting, I mean the presenting as in, because was you always doing a podcast? Because I wasn't aware of that.
No.
In lockdown, I realised that you've got Dj Fresh and Friends.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, good question. So I was doing radio presenting before PYRO, the stations in Bournemouth. When I was on Freeze in London, I mean, I guess you can call it presenting, but looking back, it wasn't. It was just me just doing shout outs down a microphone. But in terms of Dj Fresh and Friends, like that's the show on PYRO. I've done a number of events in the UK as well. So there is a kind of a crossover kind of thing there. And I guess the podcast, even podcast as a word, can maybe be a bit broad or a bit kind of open in that respect. Right. Like I don't do like a spoken word podcast, but the radio show from PYRO gets put out in a way that I guess it's consumed a bit like a podcast and stuff. So it just kind of made sense to kind of, you know, the natural development from doing radio and making tunes and meeting people. Then you get booked in clubs anyway, and people ask you, and then you kind of go from there. So hence doing events and stuff. So that slide there was DJ Pure, who was a guest on one of the recent PYRO shows, because I always like to get DJs to guest on my show as well and do like a guest mix, just like I get to do guest mixes on other stations, some of the national stations. It's nice for me to give that opportunity to other people on their journey. I like that. And like DJs that I think are sick, or DJs, producers who are sick who DJ, I'm like, yeah, come do your thing. Like, use it for your thing. Do you know what I mean? So it's important for me to kind of support and share people who are doing good work. Like, that's the whole point, right?
And you've also got great, DJ, not just the DJs. You've got great, like, I discovered Araka via you. I didn't know that. I just love Araka LD. You know, do you know what I mean? LD, he's just brilliant. But you've got these up and coming people that we've never heard from around the globe. Right, okay. But I know that you've had Araka on your show, and that's how I met him. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, when I first saw that, I thought, oh, he's doing a podcast. But as you said, it's not one that you use as in spoken words. It's just the artist. So you've got the PYRO Fresh. Then you've got, let me put this up here, Rude Kid on a Sunday. Do you still do that? Tell everybody.
Oh yeah, well that was a guest mix that I did on Rude Kid's show last week or so.
That's right.
Rude Kid's always been like super. I mean, obviously he's a legend. Like him and Getz are the combination. Rude Kid's make and continues to make some amazing tracks. And Rude Kid's always been very supportive of my tracks on his show. Yeah. And, you know, I've been lucky enough to be a guest on his show doing guest mixes a couple of times as well. So he's always kind of shown the love, which is really nice. So, yeah, it's good to see, man.
I thought I wanted to put that up there because I know, I mean, those who know of Rude Kid, I know that you've gone on there, you've done your, you know, the J Fresh guest mix. I was able to catch that. You've also got, you know, you did the Kiss Festival, but you're on Kiss.
Oh, yeah.
Let everybody know about the Kiss. Tell us about the Kiss link.
Yeah, well, it kind of really started when, I guess, really through me focusing on production and getting music played and playlisted on Kiss. Some of the tunes that you played the videos of, you know, have been playlisted on there before, and then it was a natural extension that, you know, you get asked to do guest mixes for Kiss Fresh and also like a Kiss Takeover show. So, yeah, Andy there is always very supportive and, you know, gets me involved with mixes here and there, you know, and it's really nice to be able to kind of dip in and do some guest mixes and takeover bits, you know, when it kind of comes through, alongside the other radio bits that I do regularly. So, yeah, I appreciate always the opportunity to provide like features and content for any of the national stations. So there's a picture of me grinning in the studio.
Yeah, I love that. I had to put that one up there.
I'm always smiling. This is the thing.
Like your J Fresh TV.
I'm always smiling like a lunatic. That's the thing. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, and that's the thing for me. I've always been a fan of radio as a platform, and it's changed a lot and continues to evolve. But I do love it, and I do really appreciate being a part of it. Anytime I get a track played on radio, whether it's a local community station or national radio, like it means a lot, and I'm always very appreciative of any involvement with radio, like in any capacity. Like I absolutely love it. So yeah, man, it's a blessing.
Let's take away from you being a DJ per se. I read somewhere that you actually lecture.
Rah.
Oh my God, if I could have seen you roll your eyes there for a second.
No, I was just unexpected,
about
man.
You. Come on.
This is your life, the Red Book.
It is. And I want, as I said, it's called Standing in My Truth.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it's all well and good that you stand and you DJ 24/7 and you interview other people. So let's find, you know, as I said, you lecture. Tell us a bit about your lecturing and why.
Yeah, I mean,
because I think that's such a great attribute that you're not just someone who stands in a microphone and play music. There is more to you than what meets the eye.
That's kind words. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, again, I've always been very lucky to kind of have a career from music, and music, as you know, like there's so many different arms and like elements to it. So I was invited to Point Blank Music School as a guest, just like a guest speaker. And I've done guest speaking before. I've been invited to like youth project, you know, community projects, youth projects, or universities or whatever to talk about radio or whatever. So yeah, and then they approached me to ask me if I would deliver some music tuition, some music lecturing on radio and things like this. So yeah, like Point Blank are like a super prestigious kind of group with everything they do. And, you know, just like when I was younger, there were a couple of people who kind of helped me when I was coming through. I wish there were courses and people who were able to give you even more information and even more guidance and steering, because like now there's like, you know, higher education or degrees or whatever within various music qualifications, whereas when I was at that age point there was none of that, unless you could like play piano like to a really high level, or were classically trained, or you were like a songwriter or a wonderful singer. They weren't even options, but the world's a different place now. So just to be there and be able to help give some support and guidance and some knowledge and answer questions and be there, like I find it very rewarding, because it's like like I said, some people helped me when I was younger and still do, and I help these people, and then further down the line, these people will then help others.
Yeah.
And even before lecturing, when I was doing my radio shows and clubs and putting on events and stuff, I'd always have people who wanted to like do little apprenticeships from the
That's what I
uni
was
or
going to
whatever.
come and ask you. Yes.
So they'd come along anyway and sitting on the radio show and take notes and help out with club stuff. And then some of those people have gone on to present themselves on Radio 1, which is like amazing to see. Or they're now journalists for like top publications, or they have their own kind of music brands. And, like it's amazing seeing them. And they're always super grateful for like, you were the only person at radio who said, yeah, come into the show and answer the phone and, do some shout outs and let the guest in and whatever. So yeah, to me, it's just what you do. How can I expect people to potentially help me at like other points in my career if I'm not willing to help other people with like what I know? So to me, that's just normal. But yeah, tuition and anything like music related in that field is really rewarding. So I do enjoy it. Yeah. Good research.
I love that because, you know what I love about this? I think because I'm an interviewer and you're an interviewer and we've been interviewed, it's like you know what to say already. Because I was going to say, what do you give back? Is there any advice? But you already just said it. You actually do. You actually, you lecture. You recognise that there might be an opening for somebody to come in, give them some tidbits. Because there is still a lot of people that won't do that in this day and age. You do know that, right?
Oh, totally. And I do.
And it's like dog eat dog.
Yeah. And also, it depends on your individual goals or your aims or the circles you're moving in or whatever. But for example, when I've done some music tuition recently, it was up to me to decide to bring in some guest speakers. So naturally, I'm able to reach out to people who've done some amazing work and bring them in to tell their story. And then they're really appreciative to be brought into the fold. And some of the students are like, oh, it's amazing, like what the guest has done. And this is another guest. And to me, it just, with PYRO, we've done like some community projects over earlier parts of lockdown. And I'd get in a wide range of special guests to do, like we did like some free talks to like 12 to 17-year-olds and stuff like that. So you can't.
Did I not read about there were some vouchers that you were giving away in lockdown? Was it something to do with food? I mean, there were so many different incentives through lockdown. There was other little bits. Can you tell us a bit more about that?
There was another community project I was involved in doing some kind of TV, but it was, of TV content we put together for young people around South London. And I think the groups around that were always, supporting the community as much as possible, with, vouchers, food support, any other kind of thing as well. So there was so much kind of wrapped up in that. But I always try and help wherever I can with these things. And the people who've worked with us before, like, they'll always kind of come back and say, oh, we've got this project, or can you help out here? But if you can't help out, can you recommend somebody who maybe could? So yeah, to me, I think it's always important to kind of.
All right, coming away from that, you've interviewed some really influential people across the time. From, I think there's a Black Twang, and I could name, actually, I had to write them down because I was like, really? Okay, you're touching on all the people that I like. So I'm going to bring it up just here, the copious amount of people. So you've interviewed 50 Cent, Wiz Khalifa. I love Wiz Khalifa, by the way. One of our own, which is Kano stepped out. Kano is one of my faves, to be fair.
He's great.
Just his insight, his life. And I'm a person that goes with tone. I'm not saying I'm a skepto, but when you listen to someone's tone, it becomes a believability. It's that believability in that person's and their delivery. But yeah, who would you say, I know someone's probably asked this question so many times, over the years, who would you say is one of your best interviews that you've done and what insight you got from it? Which one would you say? And if you've got a few, just name one.
Oh, Bashi.
Really?
I was going to say Kano, and that was great
That's
anyway.
interesting.
But Bashi was. There's lots of people who have been
like
really
Bashi,
interesting and
though,
really
yeah.
engaging, but with
Yeah.
Bashi in particular, 2014-ish. So he was still releasing tracks and still based in the UK then. But we had an interview.
Oh, because I love Bashi. Where are you going? Just when he's about to. Here we go. And he's back. Bashi.
Oh, sorry, did you lose me there?
Yeah, so 2014, we're in Bashi. Go.
Yeah, so it wasn't like a press day when we had like 10 minutes and that was it. And I think we ended up talking for like a good half an hour. And he was someone who always struck me as, he had a lot of depth, but the way he thought and what he was a great guy to interview because he would just talk, which is, as you know, is great.
Wow.
But he was always someone who I felt could and would do so much more around and on top of music. You know, and he definitely struck me as someone who potentially could move into politics and stuff like this. I think I asked him in the interview and he laughed, and I think he laughed and went, that's what people always say to me, but I don't know. But obviously now he's doing all the film stuff and doing great things, but he was someone who, he was someone who in particular left me with, like, I came away from that and I was like, that really resonated with me, just asking the questions and having that kind of chemistry. So, you know, I haven't interviewed him since, but, you know, he was really, that kind of left a positive mark. Very positive. But there was a few people there, like Kano was like, and if you've ever seen an interview with him, like, he is so humble and he's so humble with what he's done. And he is a legend. And DEE was really entertaining to interview because he was kind of quiet, but like his personality was still coming through in what he said, and like his tone and intonation and his reaction, and I really liked his energy.
And he's got good depth, hasn't he? I find that he's got very deep depth. DEE definitely has that. With all these people that you had, and you've had great insight to be amongst them, and you're still, you know, producing, and you're on Kiss and everything else. When do you find time for yourself? And within that time for yourself, what is it away from not running 5K?
Trying to.
What is it that you do for yourself that allows you to elevate? Because you do need to have that respite. Do you understand? You can't keep going all the time because you'll burn out. What is it that you do to refresh the mind?
It's a great question. It's something that I struggled with for a long time. I refused to take time off work. I couldn't. I'd feel like I was failing if I did, and I wasn't trying hard enough. And if I took any time off, then that's why I hadn't like hit the goals that I'd set myself. But you know, as time passes by, you learn from your mistakes and you become wise. So for me, obviously family are important. I'm a relatively large family, six of us, but don't see each other very often. But when we do, like, it's you know, but I'm in a relationship now where I'm able to understand the importance of allocating that time to that side of things. And I'm lucky that my job is at times really fun. And when you know, festivals and clubs are open, like, I do enjoy playing music in front of people, like, I love it. But my kind of personal life, like, keeps me really centered, and that's like a very rewarding and enjoyable kind of part of who I am. And I do love football. I support Manchester United. So
I saw.
Yeah, although their behaviour with this European Super League, do you know what? Let's not talk about that.
Yeah,
But I do.
I've been watching it all day. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
I'm a
I know,
Spurs
right?
supporter, so please don't even forgive me.
No comment. We'll just take Harry Kane off you. But
Don't even.
but
Okay.
yeah, so football. Like I do love football. I love watching. Champions
Really
League.
good.
I do love
Yeah.
obviously watching my team. So yeah, kind of away from work, like personal life, a relationship, football, and yeah, and I shouldn't say it, but like going for runs and walks or doing exercise or joining the gym when I need to rejoin actually. Yeah, that kind of helps my brain as well. So yeah.
I love that. Here we are in 2021. I'm going to play one more video because I'm hoping that it's the right one that I.
Over the last 12 months, I've been lucky enough to work with some great artists. I put out music myself, produced for some artists, and collaborated with some artists as well. Loads on the horizon for 2021, but the recap of this year's releases, let's go.
Man better respect the ting, the king's been selected. 16 bars of flows they can't mess with. You already know who I am. Old school man had gigs like Ryan.
This is DJ Fresh, you're checking out PYRO Radio.
Checking your missus. Nah, brother, I'm joking. I just wanna be alone with you. Turn around, I just wanna hold you.
You're not bad cause you got a little reload, or the man cause you got a little reload. Man's talking he's the best MC, no? All because he got two reload.
Let's come and jump on a J Fresh beat with left real quick from now. You don't know that.
I just wanna know what you need. You can do me when you're next to me.
Wow.
Recap.
Over the last 12 months, I've been lucky enough.
Wow. So there I was going to ask you, and no, someone said hey Natasha in the chat room, no, we can buy Son. She's a Man U supporter. Not having it, not
Yes.
having it, not having it. No, Natasha, not having it.
The truth is obviously
know?
hard to take, Valerie. This is not what I expect from this podcast. Fix up.
No, not having it. Let me make sure my equilibrium leaves intact. No, Son. Can have Harry Kane, but not Son. But anyway, that recap is a lot. And that was what, November 2020 you were talking about that?
Yeah, I think that's a little video piece I've done just to kind of recap the year and the tracks that I'd put out last year. Yeah.
What does 2021 hold? What is in store apart from us opening up in the clubs and DJing?
Yeah.
I'm sure the DJing is probably, the gigs are flying in now. Your diary is probably filling up. But what's in store in terms of one production? Will you continue to have the PYRO and all the guests on the J Fresh Friends? What is on the horizon? Tell me.
Firstly, looking back at that video, like I'm surprised how many bits I did actually put out last year, more than I thought, because I felt like I held back on loads because I was just waiting, throughout last year, we were just waiting for like, well, clubs will be open soon and, things will be opening soon and we might have a bit of a summer. And so you're just waiting. And I was like, I'm not really in the right frame of mind, but I did more than I thought I did. But for 2021, so I've put out 2 tracks this year. One that called Nobody Rates You with Flamesy, and then there was a remix of that as well, which has had some nice support. And there's just loads more singles that are finished and that were finished last year or over a year ago that I've just been waiting for the right time to release them. So I'm looking forward to sharing them.
Is that singles or album?
That'll be singles. I'm just sticking to singles for now on because I did like 2 albums and some EPs from the start, and there was a lot of benefits from that. But for now, I feel like singles make the most sense for me. Radio is always going to continue. I'm still doing the fortnightly show on PYRO and still obviously having as many guests and supporting as much music as I can that I love. And I'm also lucky, like I said, to get the national radio placements that come up with the national station. So obviously that continues. And events, obviously, like I'm lucky to have got a lot of messages and emails and whatnot about events when things are back open, but I'm holding back saying what's going to happen, because I don't want to say, oh, I'm going to be doing this, and then, oh, actually there's another change and things are delayed. So I'd rather wait until when clubs are back properly.
That's right.
Then I'm like, cool, this is where I'm at and this is what I'm doing now.
Okay, so here's my my penultimate question. I've got two. It's a two-headed question I've got for you. What have you taken out of 2020 into 2021 inspirationally of COVID? What have you learned from that? One, about yourself and the industry as a whole.
Industry as a whole, we all knew it, but it's so heavily weighted for touring that it's forced a lot of us to look at other avenues within music. So there's some growth there. Personally, I think it's just reinforced the importance of those close to you, mental well-being, and you know, it's okay as a guy to kind of look after yourself now and again. And you know, you should appreciate your friends and family and relationships and everything, because things do change very quickly. And sometimes when you're working towards stuff, or you're creative or freelance in any way, the project you're working on, or the projects you're working on, they have to be like the most important thing, because you have to give it your all. But it's also reminding that that's true. But outside of that, like, you need to be yourself. You need to have a break from that, because that just stops you going mad, and also makes you appreciate things, like all the things we thought we really needed. Maybe materialistic wise, I'm not a materialistic person, but I think that's shown a lot of people throughout lockdown, that all the things they thought they needed to make them happy, actually it's not. It's the fact that, you know, just that phone call, or reading that book, or potentially, you know, learning a new skill, or checking in, or being friendly with your neighbor, or whatever. Like, I guess it's just given me some good perspective to be a better person, I guess.
So another thing, we're so used to technology. We're so
Mm-hmm.
used to like, we're great, and we could put out things, you know. Did you find it a struggle to be able to do videos, put singles out, collaborate more with people, or were able to adapt to the fact that everything was very sterile and we had to, like how we are right now?
Yeah.
How did you cope with that?
I think, like most people at the start, we didn't think how serious things would be. We thought it'd be funny for a couple of weeks and back to normal. It's hard. It was really hard, you know, losing all of your gigs for a year. And the summer that we'd missed was shaping up to be the busiest one I'd ever had. And unfortunately it didn't happen, but there's more important things in life. You take a knock, but you just, like I said, you might have people around you, or you learn that actually, like, as long as you've still got your roof over your head and you can look after this, that, and the other, like, you're happy. Like, things could always be a lot worse. And I think we all saw that. So yeah, and you know, the one thing we always say about life, Val, not just in music, but we always say, I wish I had more hours in the day. I wish I had more time. We all say that. But I had a little period of maybe 2 months where literally all work stopped, and I mean everything, and no one knew what was happening. And you know, you watch the news, and all the numbers of people being unwell or dying was like going more and more each day, and it was quite scary. And then it's like, you know what, that actually gave me a time to actually think and reflect on things, because you never have time to do that. And then it makes you think, do you know what, there are other opportunities out there, there are other things you do, you can be creative or be positive in different ways. So yeah, like, for many people, I echo, like, it was challenging, and it has been challenging, and it still has its challenges, but there's a lot more to be grateful for than to complain about, for me, you know, because some people obviously have had lost, you know,
loved ones,
loved ones, businesses, house,
but you got
everything.
Stay positive, don't you?
But so yeah, so that's quite a long answer to that question. I probably went off on some mad tangent.
I've got one more to go, and my question to you is this: if you had an ideal person that, I know you've worked with many people, name one more person, if you could get them in 2021 and I'm not asking about myself, in 2021, you've got a long list of people. Who would you love to collaborate with in 2021 when we get back to normal?
I always said Kano.
Really?
Yeah. I just think he's sick.
Let me know so I can be in the video.
I'll let you know. But he's always someone who, yeah, it's always a difficult one to answer. I know some people like get really shy. They don't want to put things out there because they see it as a beg, but it's not a beg. Like, yeah, that would be like a crazy moment. You know, but you know, what's exciting about being out there and being involved in music is, as well as there being undeniable legends,
Yeah.
there are so many new people that you find, that you stumble across all the time.
Coming through is beautiful.
And you just go, oh, that's great. Let's do, you know, and to me, that's really important, that there's always new and exciting artists coming through, or that you're a fan of, or that you want to feature or work with, because that's the fuel to keep it going. If that stops and you've only got like now and like old school, then that's when things stop moving forward, in my humble opinion. So yeah, that's what I'm at with that, really.
Jay, I know that we've come to the end, and I'm hoping that you enjoy talking about yourself and everything else. For me, it's lovely because I could just kick back, listen to some of the music that you've done. There's other questions I didn't get to ask because you've kind of answered them already. So there's no point me going back over them.
Yeah.
One of the last thing I want to say to you, what would you impart to anyone who is, fair enough, who didn't get to do all the Facebook Live being as a DJ or a YouTuber, or still trying to get into the avenue of being on BBC One, One Extra as a DJ? What advice do you have for an up and coming DJ, who's aspiring not to just play in the clubs, but go that one step further like yourself? What advice do you have? And imparting advice.
Never give up. Even when it gets really hard, you've got to keep going. Try and be friendly / professional, even when people are not back to you.
Absolutely.
And
let me ask you that, actually. I know you're saying that. I'll come back to that. What was the pitfalls, without having to name anyone, because everyone has pitfalls? Any pitfalls while you've been coming up in the industry? It doesn't matter if it's drill, whatever. People that you've come across, even artists that you've worked with. Has there been any pitfalls that you could have thought, oh wow, it didn't have to be like that?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I mean, I think everyone has that. I mean, earlier on I mentioned the term managing expectations. So what might be a priority, a record that you've made with somebody, what it might be a priority to you, but it might not necessarily be a priority to them. You might be expecting different outcomes from anything that you work on. It's managing that. People have different ways of dealing with things. People have
Over the last 12 months, I've been lucky enough to work with some great artists. I put out music myself.
Sorry, my finger touched that there.
That's all right.
Apologies.
So yeah, but I think I would, in my younger days, I would put myself out there a little bit more and be a little bit more confident. When I was younger, would be telling myself to be less worried about things going wrong and just give it a go. But yeah, I think it's just life though, isn't it? Any walk of life, there's people who you just connect with and the energy is great and you see yourself, working together. I'm not talking about artists here. We're talking about like other DJs or promoters or nightclub owners, whatever it is. You just, through the course of time, you learn what works for you, and you know what you're comfortable with, and you know the things that just you just don't want to do, and you get that confidence of like, thank you, but no, like it's just more hassle than it's worth. And you just keep
all the new people that are getting to know you, because this is going to be played back and it'll be on my page. What is your handle and the nights? So your Kiss nights are, what nights are they? I know them, but tell them. So when you play on Kiss, what nights are you on?
They're not like fixed dates as such. They're just guest mixes whenever like the call comes in. Yeah.
Okay, so they can easily just check out your page, which is?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The socials at J Fresh Official, So I'm pretty active on there. Insta, Twitter, Facebook, if you're still on Facebook.
Instagram.
Everywhere, yeah. But Instagram is
jfresh.co.uk as well. So
yeah.
they want to get the full synopsis, like what, going on there, to see like all your Mixcloud shows, and they can catch where you're on.
Yeah.
J Fresh and Friends. Like here, you got all the synopsis from the one extra set where all your guest mixes can be found.
Yeah.
For all the newbies. So those who missed all before, but coming in late, because I can see them in the chat room, but you can't see them, you see. I can. For anybody else, J Fresh is on the radio. He's not just a DJ, he's a presenter. For me, he's a groundbreaker from the urban to the overground and underground of artists coming in from drum and bass. He has a bit of the UKG style thrown in between, and also sometimes I think some of the stuff that you do as well has got that hip hop rap connotation from the US as well, and I love that. I really, really, really do. But Jay, I want to thank you, Mr. Fresh, for coming on today. I hope you really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Talking about yourself, it's so refreshing. And you're not just saying, "Oh, well, I do this and I do that." People need to know that you were educated from Bournemouth University, you got your bachelor's, you guest lecture, and you're all the various. Check him out. Please go and check him out on Mixcloud, J Fresh. You can't miss him. Great stuff. New guys coming through. And we're looking out for 2021 for the next singles that are coming through. Thank you so much for coming.
No, thank you, Val. Like, it's been great to be here on your show, and having the time and space to kind of really get into a conversation is really nice. I've started being involved in more kind of things like this that aren't so time constricted, like radio and stuff. And it's really enjoyable to have that conversation, and like your energy is really good. And obviously you've done all the research and put me on the spot from the very first minute. But no, I like that. There's nothing more, there's that shows that, you really want me here to have this conversation, because there's things you want to know. But
I want them to see what I see. I want them to hear what I hear. And that's genuinely what's standing in my truth when I started this, because even though I've got my own band, and even though I've got, how many different projects, it was something that I kept thinking, well, can I do this? Can I present? Is there, do I have the personality to sit down and listen to what someone has to say? And so, like what you just said earlier, which was, we try to find different creative edges in our lives. And this was one of them. And so I've had my knockbacks where, I've had someone who said, you're going to come on the show, and then they get cold feet. Not because I don't want to be in the show, they actually get cold feet. But they could go and DJ and they could go and perform, but to sit and talk about themselves, they found it quite daunting. And I get that, so I'm hoping that I made you comfortable enough, and
Oh,
too much in your seat, and like
100%. Like, it's been really good to have this conversation, and like I said, it's something that I'm starting to do more of, and it was really enjoyable. And I guess the always thing you're going to have is when you got people who are used to answering questions. I'm always going to ask you a question. Like, I got a couple in there as well. I got a couple of jabs in there as well. Do you know what I mean? So I had to do that. But no, like, you made it really welcoming, and it's great to be here and to have a conversation. Like, it was really interesting, and I feel like I know you more through that as well. So I really appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening, what's left of it. And I'll see you on the flip side. I'll make sure this is already live on YouTube, so people can go back and watch it straight away. But I'll cut up some highlights. I'll get it out there so people can see what we were like. I was really trying to get the Instagram, but it's just not connected. And it's so difficult because I have done Instagram live, but I try not to play around with it too much. I just kept thinking it's all about what we've got to say, and it's not trying to be fancy. So this is it today, and I'll put it on Instagram for anyone to see a bit more about you. But in the meantime, thank you, Jay.
Wicked. Thanks a lot. Take care.
Thank you, J Fresh. Love to the family. Look forward to seeing more of you in 2021.
Likewise. Wicked. Thanks a lot. Take care. Thank you. Bye.
Oh, wow. Oh, my God. Thank you to everyone that tuned in. I know it's a Wednesday night and you're not used to it. Football is on. I've watched Spurs before I came on. And to everybody else, let's not be angry in life. That was a really positive tonight. Tomorrow I've got Craig Kedder on talking about CBD oil and some people smoke marijuana, hey, but CBD oil seems to be making a massive, massive market out there for CBD oil. What is the benefits? Why are people using CBD oil? Is it only for anxiety? Is it only for multiple sclerosis? But without that, tonight I had Jay Fresh in the house. And I'm going to catch up with him. He's probably jumped out the green room. But in the meantime, I'm hoping that you're all enjoying the sunshine, even though it's cold out there. But whether you watched the feedback or the replay, thank you for watching. Now, then, later. Bye-bye. Have a good evening. God bless you all. See you tomorrow, 7:30, with Craig Kedder, all about CBD oil and Kanubu. Good night. God bless.